Alright everyone, it's time for Occult Literature, video number 344, Beginnings, Glimpses of Vanished Civilizations. Very, very interesting work, 76 pages, so it's fairly short to intermediate. Link in the description of my edition of this work on Amazon. Second and third links are to my books, blogs. This is a really good one. Some of it is pseudo-scientific or pseudo-historical. Part of it I actually agree with. You see, back 100 years ago and beyond, humans realized that the similarities between cultures, they were studying folklore from all these various cultures in the world, and they realized that there were certain near universal constants between them. One of them is the idea of an Atlantis, or a pre-existent race of people that was eventually scattered or destroyed, usually technologically adept. There are archaeological remains in multiple parts of the world, really, that could explain some or all of these stories. That's the main focus here, and that these similarities were proof of a prior origin. Like, you get off way, I mean, if you listen to like the Anunnaki stuff, they'd say, well, as this Proto-Germanic group peopled everything and all the great cultures stem from it. Really, that initial root race, which the Theosophists talk about, that initial Atlantean race, or the Agarthans, Lemurians, whatever you want to call them, really was a prototypical group of people that would have had some characteristics of all the diaspora. This is generally the way in which evolution would work. They had different traits over time, divergence. However, they would have not been divergent at the time. Getting beyond that, though, because this touches on that concept. It talks about ancient Greece, ancient Rome, sort of the ideas of Atlantis, specifically, the Egyptians, of course. And one thing that it doesn't note is some of the sunken cities that do actually exist. There are several of them in the old world. None of them were known at the time of this writing. It's very interesting that the people that began to shrug off the idea that there had been any pre-existent group of people that had reasonably high technology, at least by default, judged against the people in the area at the time, they didn't have access to many of these archaeological ruins. They hadn't been found yet. This is why Marxism is so moronic, because it was written before Catalhoyuk was known. It was written before Göbekli Tepe, which pushes the human timeline back a lot further, completely debasing the concept of primitive communism or primitive communalism. Likewise, if we look at the island of Santorini, some of the ruins that are off the coast of India, some of the ruins off the coast, there are several sunken towns in Egypt off the edge of the Nile Delta, they lend credence to the basic idea that a highly advanced, again, by then modern standards, in Santorini you have three-story structures at a time when most people dwelt in single-room dwellings in Greece. It would have rivaled anything from Egypt. It would have rivaled the Minoan creations, very advanced, and it's still, by the way, not even fully dug out. If we look at these sites, they do exist. There are instances where an island has blown its top, at Santorini specifically, and a civilization, a group of people that live there that probably used the volcano and the springs attendant to it as a source of heat and water, it wiped them out. Unfortunately. This could have led to the basis of the story of Atlantis, which then gets embellished over time in an oral tradition, actually, and then gets related later in a different form. But anyway, this particular book goes all through these various legends. It doesn't talk about the archaeological side quite as much because, again, most of it wasn't there, but it does talk about the mythological side, and it attempts to coordinate Vedic lore, some material from British lore, actually, ancient Greece, ancient Rome, ancient Egypt. All of these different cultures, the Sumerian, Akkadians, all of these different cultures have certain similarities when it comes to the basic concept of the origins of man. Again, it goes beyond just Atlantis, but that's a large chunk, more than half of this work specifically. Ultimately, very well written. Very interesting text. Again, link in the description of my edition of this work on Amazon. Second and third links are to my books, blogs. Highly recommended. There's the archaeological side, the folkloric side, and of course, a little bit of the spooky pseudo-history as we get on towards Halloween. Can't be a bad thing now, can it? That's about all. Peace out.